Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at Riga, as this ship is completely free this update. You can get this ship skipping to tier 9. And I think this is going to be the best pick for the majority of people. I know Colombo is busted and everybody's looking to get that one, of course. But I think Petro has got to be one of the most consistent battle impact ships in the entire game. As a tier 10, it's incredibly tanky. It's got great utility with the radar. The guns are excellent. Most situations, a Petro is going to do well. So getting yourself up to the tier 9 completely for free just by logging in this update is pretty nice. And for the vast majority of people, they should find Petro to be a great ship to play. Riga is not quite as good as Petro, though, to be honest with you. It's lacking the tankiness for the most part, I've found. The superstructure here is quite a lot bigger, as are our firing angles. They're quite a lot worse than Petro. It even has like 360-degree turrets on Petro, which is really nice. That ship is incredibly good. But Riga's no slouch. It'll be a fine grind. It's not like this will be a very painful ship to grind through. I just think as far as power levels go, Petro is pretty nuts these days still. This ship has a 12-kilometer radar, which we want to get good value out of, and that's one of the main reasons the battle impact is so high here. Unlike ships like the Des Moines line or Worcester line, any of these radar cruisers, they often just get overmatched and can't play as close to islands these days or close to caps these days, unless they have really, really good islands. Where the Petro line, Riga included, are tanky enough that you can play up closer, take a little more risk to your ship, and get that radar on the caps. That's why the battle impact here is so high. It's a lot easier to play in positions where you're able to radar out destroyers. The guns here are absolutely excellent though too, I gotta say. The AP shells here hit quite hard, and most importantly, they have slightly improved pen angles. So you get 50 to 65 degree pen angles instead of 45 to 60 degree pen angles like we see on most armor piercing. So a small buff there, but it really is quite noticeable that these shells just tend to not ricochet, and that is really nice to have. They have really good pen shell velocity. It's really easy to lead these guns. It's not like Des Moines where it's incredibly slow shells to lead. We also get great range out to 18 kilometers. It's rather comfortable to play, assuming you're not the primary focus, right? We want to be isolating fights still. We don't want to be showing broadside in this one, as you do have a large exposed citadel. It's another reason this ship can be a little tricky to play. Riga, if you get caught really close range, turning away, trying to turn out in front of enemy ships is a great way to get sent back to port instantly, as this is not one of those trolley cruisers where it might take overpens, you might get lucky like that. Not gonna happen in Riga, but I still think this is one of the best tier 9s that you could possibly pick for this update, because I think the Petro and this Riga line is going to be the best for battle impact. It's going to be great in a div, it's going to be great in ranked seasons. It's just a very flexible ship and very flexible line. We see our battleships starting to push up here very aggressively, and crucially, we can push with them, right? We don't have to play behind islands and farm over islands, because if we push out, suddenly we get overmatched, citadeled, and it's going to be the end of our game. As long as we're not the main focus of a push, I feel very confident to push out like this. And our supplemental damage, our AP here, is absolutely devastating. This ship having around a 10-second reload with these guns is so nice against cruisers. You may not have enough to quite citadel battleships at mid-range. Close range, you can start to do it. But you get upper belt hits, which are really nice. But crucially, these cruisers, man, it's so nice to have this armor piercing into cruisers. And the HE can farm battleships down as well. You know me, I'm a little more focused on armor piercing as always. I'm going to try and greed for those citadel hits. And overall, I do think Petroline is going to be one of the best ones for that. Although you do have to consider the dispersion. It's one of the weird things about Petroline Riga included is that the close range dispersion is better than most cruisers. The long range dispersion is quite a lot worse than most cruisers. It's unfortunate, I guess, if you're playing at longer ranges, but at these closer ranges, the consistency you gain out of these guns is really nice. The armor allows us to play at those closer ranges to take advantage of that better close range dispersion, and our radar gives us the ability to spot things within that good dispersion window. it synergizes quite well, I find. It's a very consistent line to play, at least from Riga to Petro. You gain a lot of tankiness going to Petro. But even still, being able to push up like this alongside our battleships, I find to be really enjoyable. I like having that option. I can play longer range farming roles. It's solid at that. Its DPM characteristics aren't the best at its tier, but thanks to the great shell velocity, as well as solid pen on the HE and armor piercing, it can rack up quite a lot of damage at those longer ranges. But 117k HE DPM is not amazing. 221k AP DPM, not amazing either. It's decent, but what sets it apart is got to be just like the ease of use of these main guns. The shell velocity is really, really important. I've been playing ships like Hawaii and Bremen these days, and while they do have great shell velocity, it does start to fall off at these 18 kilometers range. You got to lead a lot. So playing Riga was really nice because it was quite easy to lead targets at these longer ranges. And it's all about hitting DPM, right? It's about hitting our shells, not just what the theoretical maximum DPM is with some of the floatiest shells in the game, potentially. It's really nice to have that level of consistency. I would say the Hydro is going to be a better pick on Riga, as if you're playing on islands, it's really nice to be able to Hydro people on the other side. It's also not particularly maneuverable, okay? One of the things is we got to show a little more broadside to use our rear turrets, that kind of thing, or front turrets if we're in a kited position. But it is a little unfortunate to have such a long rudder shift at 11.5 seconds and our turning circle radius of 920 meters. That's around battleship level. Not the rudder shift, but the turning radius. It doesn't turn very tight, so you're going to eat a lot of torps potentially out of this ship. Not guaranteed. When you have a Hydro, it's a lot easier to dodge a lot of that. But it's also worth mentioning that the torp protection here is like 19%, so it hurts to eat those torpedoes. It really does hurt. Having heals, of course, always really, really welcome in my book. And they're just standard heals, 14% and an 80-second cooldown. But having the heals is just so nice to, again, play a little bit closer, play a little bit more aggressive, and not be the primary point of focus on your team, right? We need to leave that to the battleships. But allowing us to play more aggressive and not be so worried about taking a hit or two, I absolutely love it. And when you do get the opportunity to flank, it's reasonably quick to get around the map. And, well, the AP on a flank is going to do some incredible work. And comparing this ship to the other options here, we've already taken a look at Lepanto. The reason you're getting that one, of course, is to skip the awful grind towards Colombo, one of the most powerful battleship in the game right now. I think Izumo and Fletcher are just old enough that they're not really worth considering, in my opinion. Yamato is a really, really good tier 10 battleship still, as is Gearing as a hybrid destroyer. But I do think overall Riga and Petro are just so much stronger in today's meta compared to those other two. And we will take a look at Sejong yet. I think that one is a little bit of an underrated pick, as Jinan is one of the best farming cruisers in the game right now. The DPM is crazy, the torps are really fun. So in my opinion, it really is Lepanto, Riga, and Sejong. Those are the three. And I think Riga being the best option for the vast majority of people is simply because it's easier to play. And it also gives you a lot of battle impact, right? Having a radar, 12-kilometer radar at tier 9 is really, really useful. It allows you to deal so much damage to the squishier ships, the most impactful ships, right? Destroyers are incredibly impactful on this game, and their spotting potential, cap contesting potential. Having that 12-kilometer radar, we want to position it close to caps. In this case, we have a standard battle, but I want to show off the tankiness overall. We're going to get like close to 2 million potential damage in this game, as well as just the sheer power of a 12-kilometer radar in the middle of the map. Look at how much of the enemy team we cover with that radar. It might not last particularly long. That is the downside of this radar. But you get the tankiness to play in a spot like this one, a little more aggressive, a little more pushed up. Although if you are playing this aggressive, I would recommend not greeting purely for the rear turrets all the time like I am in this battle, as you do take a lot of damage to your broadside. We're fighting against Venezia with Sap. Sap is a pretty busted ammo type where doesn't really care about angling, and of course he also full pens us everywhere. Our 35 millimeters of armor is not helping us out there, unfortunately. We catch a Buffalo broadside, and of course that is going to be Citadels. At these closer ranges, that's where this ship excels. You need to get close, otherwise it's going to feel a little bit bad when the dispersion at those longer ranges tends to troll you. Not enough to get through the Los Andes belt armor, unfortunately. Maybe that's not a downside of Riga. Perhaps that is just Los Andes and its design. Unfortunately, it's very hard to get through his citadel. A lot of other battleships, though, like that Iowa in the previous battle. We can absolutely get through that one. And back to grinding through these ships, or the comparison. If you're thinking about it in that regard, how difficult it is or how cohesive is the line to grind, I actually don't think these Soviet cruisers are that painful to grind out, honestly. At lower and mid tier, you got to worry about some bad armor, but once you get to Tallinn, your armor is okay. Still not Riga levels, but Riga and Petro certainly have pretty strong armor levels. The guns are pretty consistent throughout as well. It's nowhere near as bad as the Lepanto grind. In my opinion, I think that Italian battleship grind is pretty painful in those mid tiers. Very, very top heavy line, where here, at least with Riga, you could skip out on this one and maybe get one of those ones that you feel like the grind is a little bit worse. But I would still highly recommend you get Petro at some point. Getting through Riga is a good opportunity to do it. I will say, though, the AA is not great on this one. Petro starts to get some decent AA at tier 10, but this one, it's just not there yet. So playing closer on islands, we got to be a little bit more careful of doing that into carrier games. Of course, that's not unique to Riga, but it is worth noting, as I've talked a lot about how we want to get to these mid and closer ranges to take advantage of the guns and the radar. But we can't turn away very easily because our citadel is so exposed and we have such a poor turning circle radius. So it's really difficult, I think, to get the most out of Riga without overcommitting. And something you really need to pay attention to is sub games, because if you play bow in on islands, you're probably going to get torped out by subs pretty easily, as well as those carrier games. If you play up closer, you're just singling yourself out to get taken out. Here, I try to slow down and turn in. Unfortunately, well, it was good torps on his part, but unfortunately we do eat one, and then the sap is coming through from the vent. So we're probably going to go down in this one, but we still got pretty much 2 million potential damage in a cruiser here. It's a very tanky radar cruiser if you're positioning it in the right spots. It can survive a long time and provide a ton of utility. And to cap this one off, we're also going to play a live game. I want to explain a little more thoughts, because with radar cruisers, it's really important you get in good positions to get good value out of this incredible consumable. Notice the enemy or our friendly Moskva spawned over here. It's less valuable to have two 12-kilometer radars, especially because Moskva's lasts a lot longer on that flank. Where here, there's a Salem with potentially like an 8.5-kilometer radar, and we can add our 12-kilometer radar to this side. That's kind of the idea of going this way. It does, for our team, cause, you know, our two GKs to overload this side along with us, unfortunately. But I think this could work out for us. Also, we got pretty good matchmaker, I would say. This is potential for Valparaiso YOLOs, so that's one of the reasons I'm actually not going here. Sometimes I like to get up to this island, and that is really, really powerful. But I'm going to start with this island. Play a little conservative to start. It is an up tier still. We don't have the best armor, right? Oh, I should have taken that shot. Oh, well. It's fine. And look at this. We're pretty much fully got the radar. I'm going to swap over to HE. We got expert loader here. And yes, we do have that covered. So if this guy smokes, then we can radar that. It's excellent. The utility is excellent. And there it goes. There's the smoke, and we're so far away, it doesn't matter. It don't matter. Actually, it does a little bit because I can't quite get over that. Sometimes shell velocity is a bad thing. But in this case, it's okay. Our team should do pretty well here. Notice how our radar is about to run out. It's probably going to get... He's probably going to get away. Yeah, we got a nice last hit on him, but he does get away. Typically, this radar is less useful for the fully 100 to 0ing a destroyer, and it's better for helping the trade go well. Look at our GQ Johnny versus theirs on the HP bar. That is a massive, massive difference, and should mean that if they get into another altercation, it is just our team is winning that, right? Huge impact already. We've only done 9,000 damage and a tiny little bit of spotting, but that was really, really critical. Ships like this one are very nice for that. And it looks like the enemy team is actually overloading this side, but we haven't really seen what battleships are over here. Okay, it's an Alsace. That is fine. I'm not too worried about that, but I don't want to overcommit until I know more of what's here. Yeah, okay, so Valparaiso as well. Could be pushing middle. Long range AP. Any citadels? No, okay. But the shell velocity is really nice. I'm going to think about poking my nose out here. And I don't want to, like, push too hard towards the one line, okay? We're looking to push out and maybe get some angles through here, anything like that. But since we're angled reasonably well, we can always just reverse around the corner here. It's not too big a deal. Our radar is not up yet. The cap is blocked at the moment, so it's worth looking this way for now as well. Yeah, the enemy team is really slow on this side, so we got some time to win this flank, but we don't want to take too long and then have these guys kind of get run over. 12 seconds, and we'll have it, and then that will finish off the DD. Nearly 20-second uptime. It's good, but not great. Ah, nice. Actually, he got spotted anyway. I'm surprised. Well, let's just pop it just to make sure everybody gets spotting on him. Should have popped it right away anyway. He's going to go back this way. And, you know, at 11 kilometers, it's like a 5.5 second light flight time. You know, that's pretty easy to lead, right? Like, that is really nice. We have 37 mil pen on the high explosive here, so pretty easily able to get good damage through into these battleships. Yeah, 6K and a fire. I mean, that's no joke. We're angled to Valparaiso. We're going to reverse, though. We don't want to be the primary focus of a Valp. Of course. Leading not enough, actually, for this Alsace. There we go. Now I'm going to rep that. 46k spotting already. Very interesting. More spotting damage than actual gun damage in this one. But sometimes that happens. It's good utility. We've lost our Izumo on this flank now. We don't want to get caught in this crossfire, though, so using this island right now is really important. I swapped over to the AP because I am an AP enjoyer, and I know Alsace can take some big hits from this armor piercing. We got to aim for upper belt, though. Actually, then he angles to us, so I should have gone HE. Okay, I don't play perfectly all the time, but improved pen angles also allow for this a little bit easier. Yeah, like that. That's over 5k damage, and he's very angled to us, I would say. It's just that little bit of extra angle that allows us to get some really consistent damage out of the armor piercing. Petro more so, I would say, but even with Riga, it's really, really nice. We somehow got an assist on... Was that Valparaiso we got an assist on? I don't know. Looks like this one's turning into a blowout. So not as much on the pressure side of things for us, but... You know, it's that idea of, I mean, 12-1 detect with 12-kilometer radar range is crazy powerful. And not overcommitting to use it up too soon and then die very quickly, because you can still die quickly in a Riga. But getting value out of that, consistent value out of that radar is going to win you so many games. The battle impact is crazy. Some other ships have slightly better guns. Certainly DPM-wise, they would probably do better. But the impact is, you can't underrate the impact on a ship like this one. And we're going to hold our shot, actually, I think, for this Riga. Because I would like to wait and see if he decides to go broadside. He probably won't. But he's stuck in a bad spot. He's going to go down rather quickly, even though he has pretty good armor. Actually, this is really interesting. 35 millimeters of armor, upper belt deck armor, can be overmatched by an incomparable. So actually we don't, like this Riga, if I was fighting an incomp, I wouldn't have any armor either. There's very, very few situations where the 510, 508 millimeter guns on incomp and Shikishima and Satsuma actually give you more overmatch, but Riga is one of the strange situations where that is the case. So be very careful if you're fighting incomps or Shikishimas, anything like that. Not great dispersion at range, though, for sure. And again, we're just trying our best to not be the point man. That's the key here. Our improved angles should allow us to get through this, honestly. Kind of surprised it isn't yet. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in the dispersion at range, but that is the trade-off here. We get really good close-range dispersion, solid mid-range, Slightly improved pen angles. Great utility. Sometimes, yeah, the pen angles just kind of troll you, or the dispersion trolls you at range. Prop mod. Dodging with prop mod, right? That is very, very big. Let's use a Hydro. I don't know where Oster is right now. Kind of focusing on this Mosfa too much. Maybe we should go after Vincent. Or Sejong. That would be a good option as well. We do tend to crush cruisers a lot more so. I mean, that was still 4.7k into that Mosfa who's very angled. Hopefully we can prop mod this one as well. When showing and shooting my rear turret, I am vulnerable to... Wow, that's insane. He hit our stern, which he does overmatch, but he did not overpen into our stern. That is brutal. Very unfortunate. That's okay, though. Where's that Vincent looking? He could be looking at us, so let's turn in. Because that would be very bad to... There we go. 6k is much more manageable. Much more manageable. There you go. Another 8k salvo into that Vincent. Very, very nice. How did we get an assist on that Sejong, by the way? Was I the one? Did they think I was spotting that? No way, right? That's got to be Jaeger spots. I don't understand this spotting system, but I'll take it. Somehow we have 80k spotting in this one. I guess being a slightly tankier... Wait, I just hit the island, but there's no island indicator. What? Okay. Some weirdness going on right now, I guess. All right, Vincent's out of our range. That's fine. That's fine. Let's head up this way for now. I really like having the ability to play somewhat open water and to tank some battleship hits. Not all of them, obviously. But I like that ability, that option, you know, that we have that option is so nice. And somewhat consistent armor piercing, especially closer ranges, to hit broadside cruisers. I feel like people make mistakes, and I want to punish those mistakes. That's where I feel the most reward in playing this game a lot of the time. So having a ship that can do that while also retaining the utility we get here of the radar is so comfortable. I don't play Petro very much, but man, is it a good ship. That's the victory. Okay, so just a blowout in this one. Not a ton of damage. We already saw some pretty good damage in games, but I want to talk more specifically on the use of radar here and kind of the positioning elements of that, because that is a lot of the early game is just getting yourself to one of the standard islands and positioning yourself to radar the destroyers, and then that allows your friendly destroyers to have much easier games. They can smoke up and deal a bunch of damage completely for free that way. Riga, though, is a good pick. I do think it's the better pick out of the 5 options you have. If you don't have any of them, yeah, Colombo is busted, and yes, the Lepanto, the grind to it does hurt, but for overall battle impact, Petro is hard to beat, I gotta say. Although we will be taking a look at Sejong, because I really do enjoy Jinan as a farming cruiser. If you're someone who finds the prospects of Colbert interesting, but a little too difficult, having that smoke is so nice. And the torps are great there as well. Sejong, Lepanto, and Riga are the best picks, and as far as impact goes, Riga for sure. Here's the build that I was running. I'm a little addicted to outnumbered, so I'm giving up some stuff to ensure that I take that skill these days. Didn't activate it too much that battle, but blowouts happen, and we take what we get when it comes to these live games. 220mm main guns, over 5k alpha damage here on this armor piercing. It hits so hard, man. The HE does as well, to be honest with you as well. Decent speed, terrible maneuverability though to go along with that. You're not out-turning anyone at all here. You gotta be very careful. 12-1 detect though is really good. That's one of the things they've nerfed on Petro is the concealment. You no longer have that 0.1 kilometer difference between your radar range and your detection range on Petro, but Riga still does get it. Here's the upgrades that I was using. You can think about range mod, by the way, given the strange dispersion curve that Riga has and Petro. Very good at close range, and then it drops off really quickly at like 10, 11 kilometers out to 12 to 15 kilometers, somewhere in there. There's this really steep drop off, and then it slows down again to like normal drop off at range. And the further you have for gun range, the more that steep drop-off gets pushed out in range. So instead of that sharp decline in dispersion, worsening of dispersion happening at 10 kilometers, maybe it starts to happen at 11 or 12 or 13 kilometers. You retain that better than cruiser dispersion out to a little bit further. At least that's the idea behind running range mod. But then you lose out on DPM, you lose out on an extra salvo potentially of your radar. Yeah, it's a trade-off, certainly. I've been running reload though and been having some great games so far. Surveillance mod as well as consumables enhancement here is how we're getting our radar up to nearly 20 seconds of duration. I think it's like 15 seconds stock. That little bit extra time is really valuable, as this you get like a 6-second time when you radar where your teammates can't actually lock on and shoot at the target. It's only minimap spotting for that first 6 seconds. So getting a little more time for your teammates to shoot is extremely valuable. 25 mil bow and stern, but you get icebreaker. Yes, so it's a pretty tanky ship, man. The problem here with Riga is you have a large superstructure, okay? Petro does not have that issue, as well as firing angles, right? 35-degree firing angles, I believe, from the rear turret. It's a little awkward. 35 is excellent until you face those like 510 millimeter battleships. Suddenly they start to overmatch you. But don't go broadside. That is the one thing. Don't go broadside. It's one of the most exposed citadels in the game. They don't make them like this very often, and wow, is it punishing when you got to deal with that. Fortunately, the rest of the armor is pretty good. The key is learning how to push up to safe islands and when you can push to the next one, and not get so far in that you're going to die and need to turn away, because at that moment, you've overplayed your hand, and Riga isn't so good in those situations. But let me know what you think in the comments down below about this free tier 9s in this update. Riga is one of the better picks, I gotta say. This is a really, really good option, especially if you're not interested in Colombo, and maybe you want a little more battle impact than just a pure farmer like Sejong and Jinan are. But thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.